Good afternoon, students, and welcome to today's lecture. So, again, as I go through this year first, this will be the first time that I've ever given a lecture or taught a class online. Bear with me as I use this technology. Hopefully, it'll go well. So, one moment, please. Okay, so today we will be covering Chapter 5 from the textbook, Karen Horney, Neurotic Needs and Trends. A little bit of what we're going to go through today. So we're going to cover a bit about Karen Horney's life when she was born between 1885 and 1952. We're going to go through and we're going to look at childhood needs for safety and security and how it was explained by Horney. Also going to look at basic anxiety and the importance of it as the foundation of neurosis. We will cover neurotic needs in this chapter, along with the idealized self-image, feminine psychology, questions about human nature according to Horney's approach, looking over the tools that Horney used in assessment for her theory, a bit of the research on Horney's theory, and then reflections being just an overview of the theory and criticisms on shortcomings about her approach. Okay, so a bit about the woman behind the theory. Karen Horney was born in 1885 and died in 1952. Her father was religious, domineering, and imperious. Her mother was attractive and free-thinking. And growing up, she envied her brother in the fact that he was a male and she was not. So this is just an overview. I know, again, it's always important with students. This is not things to really focus on or to worry about with the test. This is just more to give you a backdrop. Okay. So, as I mentioned before, Karen Horney felt rejected by her parents. The way that she responded to that rejection was by becoming, well, for her, becoming ambitious and rebellious. So remember, given the times of when Karen Horney grew up, the views about men and women, antiquated, traditional, sexist views about women and women's roles. So for her, rebelling against her parents mean doing the opposite of what she was expected. In this case and in those times, as a woman, doing the opposite of what it was expected was to be ambitious in that sense, to be focused on school and academic success, rather than being the mild-mannered and I guess sometimes meek behaved woman that she was expected to be. She became very successful within her career, and she began to undergo Freudian psychoanalysis, but she later turned to self-analysis as she deviated away from Freud's theory. And one of the things that we're going to look at a lot while we cover this chapter is how, yes, she did start off as being a Freudian and then deviated from the school of thought for a number of different reasons, including the fact that she found it to be sexist and not taking into account a lot of different things that occur or explain behavior and learning. So we're going to cover that a little bit later. Okay. So just one more thing to cover. For Horney, there was a greater emphasis on social relationships and interaction. And she believed that people were motivated for need for love and security. And that speaks to the way that she grew up, as well as how she formulated her theory. So for her, growing up, she didn't feel that she received the love that she needed from her parents, in particular her relationship with her father, and she feel again that they preferred her brother. She felt rejected by this. She didn't feel loved. She didn't feel secure in those relationships. So again, explaining her rebelling while she was growing up and becoming ambitious, focusing in school, and then as well how, as we've seen with all of the, as we're going to see with all of their therapists that we've covered, their experience growing up or early on in life largely shapes the way that they frame their understanding of personality development. So for Karen Horney, because of the way that she grew up, that shaped and founded her theory in terms of a focus on a need for love and security. Anyways, moving forward. So As you see here, childhood need for safety. Social forces in childhood influence personality. So this is something that she took into account that um, Freud didn't. And again, we're going to see a lot of these differences as well. So safety need. High level need for security and freedom from fear. Um, ways in which parents undermine a child's need for security. There's 3 points noted here. Obvious preference for a sibling. Um, providing unfair punishment and erratic behavior towards children, and then breaking promises as well. So I think when it comes to safety, it's also a lot of these uh, really speak about as well a need or a sense of trust, and how if that is broken, that can break a sense of safety for a child. So just to add, like Freud, Horney believed that the early years of childhood are very important in developing personality. She believed that social forces shape personality, not biological ones. That's an important difference. Also, a child's sense of security is completely based on how parents treat their child. A lack of warmth and affection are main ways of security, ways a sense of security is weakened, and importance of child experiences in relationship with parents. Just some important notes to take. So again, um, that speaks to these last points here in terms of unfair punishment, erratic behavior, and breaking promises. So childhood need for safety. Ridicule. So ridicule and humiliation, isolation of child from peers, those are ways in which a childhood's need for safety could be broken or could be impaired. Um, An infant's helplessness increases when they are kept in an excessively dependent state. So again, if you keep that child constantly dependent on you, or their parents, I should say, rather, for meeting their needs for their development, then they'll never be able to provide themselves with a sense of autonomy or become independent. Again, for most of the theories, the important thing is that there's a balanced approach that's established. You don't want to give in too much in terms of um, when children are made to be excessively dependent, but as well, you don't want to leave them alone where they're made to kind of fend for themselves and take care of their own needs. It's that balance. Um, so, reasons for a child to repress hostility towards a parent: punishments, love, and guilt. So, further explained, children may develop hostility for their parents, which they believe they must repress of either a parent's need for love or fear of losing love. They also may feel that to sorry, just a sec, I'm losing my words. So let me repeat myself. Children may develop hostility for their parents, which they believe they must repress because of a number of reasons. The need of parents, whether it's overall need in terms of their safety and well-being, um, fear of parents and their reactions to their behavior, or a fear of losing love. And then finally, the last reason could be that it produces guilt created by the hostility. So when that child feels that they need to suppress that hostility that they feel towards their parents, that then manifests itself into a form of guilt. Moving along. So basic anxiety as it is explained by Karen Horney. So basic anxiety, as explained, is a pervasive feeling of loneliness and helplessness. Again, this speaks to the importance that Horney placed on the need for childhood safety and security. So basic anxiety, again, is pervasive feeling of loneliness and helplessness. Basic anxiety, according to Horney, was the foundation of neurosis. Self-protective mechanisms for a child can either serve the purpose of motivating a person to seek security and reassurance, and they are powerful and intense. So, anxiety is inseparable from feelings of fear, hostility, and helplessness. During childhood, there are 4 ways of protecting against basic anxiety that we're going to see in a little bit. Protective measures motivate people to seek security and reassurance, not happiness or pleasure. Again, I repeat, protective measures motivate people to seek security and reassurance, not happiness or pleasure. Again, if we're going back to last chapter, that's a deviation from Freud's principle in terms of the pleasure principle working with the id. He believed that we are largely motivated by the pleasure principle, whereas for Horney, it was for security and reassurance. And the consequence of using these mechanisms in an impoverished personality. You'll see when you access the slides that there's a video that I put at the bottom of the added notes that I'd like you guys to take a look. And that's just to help further support this slide and Horney's concept of basic anxiety and how it is attached to her theory. So you'll see there, it is a YouTube link for you guys, please, to review. So if we move along, here is a slide just depicting what the self-protective mechanisms are that children use against anxiety, or people use against anxiety, rather, I should say. So there's securing affection, being submissive, attaining power, and withdrawing. Yes, please do make note of what those self-protective mechanisms are. And then with the previous slide, as I'll go back, I also want you to take a note of how the self-protective mechanisms relate to basic anxiety, okay? So basically, in terms of explaining it, you would explain both what is basic anxiety and then how the self-protective mechanisms motivate a person to seek security and reassurance, and that they are powerful and intense. Okay, so for securing affection, a good way to look at it or make sense of it is to say, if you love me, you will not hurt me. That is the mindset behind securing affection. And it can be achieved by obedience, bribing others, or threatening others. 4, being submissive. The mindset behind it can be explained as, if I give in, I will not be hurt. Those who are being submissive avoid conflict. They repress their personal desires. They see themselves as unselfish and self-sacrificing. For attaining power, the mindset behind that is, if I have power, no one will harm me. Security, or a sense of security, is achieved through success or a sense of superiority over others. And then for withdrawing, what's important is it's not just your social isolation, but it's also mentally or psychologically withdrawing. So that person no longer relies on others to satisfy emotional or external needs. Emotional needs minimized to avoid hurt from others. Okay. So for Horney, neurotic people may attempt to use multiple mechanisms simultaneously, but the problem with that is some of these mechanisms are not compatible with the others. So I'm going to move a bit forward along with our slides. So here you'll see a definition of both neurotic needs and then how those needs are categorized into neurotic trends. So a neurotic need is an irrational defense that becomes a permanent part of personality. Again, an irrational defense that becomes a permanent part of personality. And then for neurotic trends are categories of behaviors and attitudes towards oneself and others that express a person's needs. It's a revision of the neurotic needs. So what's important to note for here is that neurotic needs encompass the ways of defending against anxiety. They're self-protective mechanisms. We all manifest all of the neurotic needs to some degree in our life. Again, we all manifest some of the neurotic needs to some degree in our life. What makes these needs neurotic? So, a person's intensive and compulsive pursuit of their satisfaction as the only way to resolve basic anxiety. Again, I'm going to repeat that because that's important. What makes these needs neurotic is when a person's intensive and compulsive pursuit of their satisfaction, these neurotic needs, as the only way to resolve basic anxiety. The need then dominates the personality. So what's important is that the person gets so compelled or focused on the satisfaction of that need. They only look at it as one way, and they seem that so they only look at it as one way, and more importantly, is from according to Horney, their personality, who they are, how they behave, becomes a reflection of that need to satisfy that need. Their entire personality becomes about satisfying that need. Satisfying needs removes anxiety. It doesn't solve the issue of loneliness and need for security. Again, so satisfying neurotic needs simply removes anxiety. It does not solve the issue of loneliness and a need for security. Very important. When satisfying neurotic needs solely to reduce anxiety, we tend only to focus on one need and seek to satisfy it in all situations. Again, when satisfying neurotic needs only to reduce anxiety, we tend to only focus on one need and seek to satisfy it in all situations. It becomes the entirety of who we are, basically. Moving along. So here, and again, yes, this will be in your textbook. Here you'll see a table that has both all the neurotic needs from 1 down to 10, and then the neurotic trends. And yes, what's important to note is I want you guys to understand this because I do want you to be able to recognize or identify what all the neurotic needs were according to Horney's theory, as well as which neurotic trend they're associated with. So as you'll see on the right-hand side of your screen, there's neurotic trends and they're associated with specific neurotic needs. I do want you to know those associations as well, please. So do take note of that. I will leave that up there for just a quick moment. Okay. So, compliant personality. Attitudes and behaviors reflecting a desire to move towards others. Again, I'm just going to go back for a quick second. Here we're speaking about the neurotic trend. So as you'll see, movement towards other is the behavior, and then compliant personality, how it's categorized. And we're going to be moving forward with that. So for compliant personality, you're going to see affection and approval are the neurotic needs, and dominant partner. Okay. So again, compliant personality, attitudes and behaviors reflecting a desire to move towards others. Intense, constant need for affection and approval. So they manipulate others. And what is meant here by manipulation is that for what's important to understand with manipulation is there's a lot of negative connotations that are associated with the word. But for here, I just want you to look at manipulation as it's deliberately behaving in a way to get the desired result that you want. So the way that they're manipulating others here is that someone with a compliant personality, they'll behave in a way, their personality will be in a way that it elicits from other people the affection and the approval that they feel that they need. So the manipulation there is that if I'm, let's say, I have a compliant personality, I'm going to behave in a way that's going to cause people to react towards me, to give me affection and approval. That's the manipulation there. Behaving in a specific and deliberate way to get a specific and deliberate response from other people. So feelings of helplessness and weakness towards themselves. I feel helpless, I feel weak, and so what do? I turn towards other people and behave in a certain way for them to provide me what it is that I feel that I need. And compliant personality is caused by repressed feelings of hostility, opposite of what they show. So, um, I have repressed feelings of hostility towards my parents, or repressed feelings of hostility in general, and this is repressed. And what I show instead is being compliant, so being overly kind, being like incredibly dependent on other people, being very complimentary of other people. I get their affection, I get their approval, and that's how I manage to deal with that. Moving forward, so the aggressive personality. Again, the aggressive personality will speak to um, neurotic needs for power, for exploitation, prestige, admiration, and achievement. Okay. So, the aggressive personality. Attitudes and behaviors reflecting a desire to move against others. Relationships viewed by their potential benefit towards the individual. So, the purpose, the goal, the value of relationships is how do they benefit me? How is it about my needs and making my situation better? Those with an aggressive personality will act tough and domineering towards others in general. And they are driven to surpass others, strive to be the best. Um, we're going to move along now to the last of the neurotic trends, which was detached personality. So again, the neurotic needs associated with a detached personality are self-sufficiency, perfection, and narrow limits to life. Okay, so detached personality is defined by attitudes and behaviors reflecting desire to maintain emotional distance from others, strong desire for privacy and self-sufficiency, so to be independent, to be autonomous, to be able to take care of all of their needs, not just all of their needs, but in particular emotional needs. So the detached personality has a sense of superiority in that they feel that they're unique and that they're special. They deny all feelings towards other people, especially love and hate. Moving along. So we're going to stay with the topic of neurotic needs and trends within Horney's theory. And okay. So conflict. Conflict is defined as the incompatibility of the neurotic trends. So as mentioned before, when looking at neurotic people, is that neurotic people, they try and use all of the trends simultaneously. So we'll just go back to that slide. Give me one quick second. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Here we go. So, as was mentioned before, we're taking a look at the self-protective mechanisms, which defends against anxiety. And I had mentioned at the end of the slide, I said that for neurotic people, many of them attempt to use multiple mechanisms at the same time, but none of them are all compatible. So we're going to bring that all the way back to where we were here, speaking about conflict. and again, incompatibility. So a neurotic person has one dominant trend and battles to keep the non-dominant trends from being expressed. So what is important to take from this slide here is that both healthy and neurotic people experience conflict amongst the trends. Again, I want you guys to keep in mind, both healthy and neurotic people experience conflict amongst the trends. The difference between healthy and neurotic people is the intensity of the conflict. Normal people use trends based on what the situation warrants. So we all go through satisfying, we all go through using the different trends. It's just that a healthy person can match the trend that they're using um, based on the reality of the situation that they're in. So that way, that allows for, if you look at it that way, right? Like if you can match the trend that you're using based on the situation, then one, there's a variety of trends that you can use, and then two, flexibility. What's important in that is there's a flexibility in terms of someone's ability to match the situation with the appropriate behavior approach. Okay, so we've come to the end of our slides for today. If you guys have any questions, what you can do is you can always send me a message via Mio, just letting me know if you can tell me which slide it was and what your question was. And what we can do is we can either have a um, discussion through email in terms of what you guys didn't understand or what your question was, or depending if you guys feel it's helpful, I might also be open to holding kind of like virtual office hour. Okay, virtual, there you go, office hours where you guys can come and ask me questions, and I'll send out a link to a Zoom meeting. And so that way you guys can join, you can ask questions that you have about the slides or the lectures that you've seen, and then you can hear about other people's questions as well as you think that's important, which it probably is, in terms of helping you better understand the chapter. So that is it for me today. I thank you very much for taking part in this lecture. And again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me. Stay healthy, stay safe, people. Take care.